So let us start another group of antibiotics. We call it beta lactams. So first we have to discuss why the name is beta lactams. The name beta lactams was because all the antibiotics that belongs to beta lactams they possess lactam rings, and because of the presence of lactam rings they are called beta lactams. Here you have to see this is the scientist. As I think you all aware about the name of this scientist, the name the Alexander Fleming. So Alexander Fleming, who did a remarkable in the discovery of first antibiotic penicillin G. So that is why his photograph is pasted here. So let us start the beta lactams that I earlier told. The antibiotic group they possess lactam ring are called beta lactams. So as name itself is telling, this is a group of antibiotics. So here we have to go through the silent feature of the beta lactams. What these are? The first we have to classify the beta lactams. So beta lactams classified into four groups: penicillins, cephalosporin, carbapenems, and the last one is the monobactams. That means these all four are beta lactams. That means these all are possessing the beta lactam rings in their structure. So today we are going to discuss the first one, the penicillin. So in this, the third one is the carbapenems. The carbapenems and the fourth one monobactam. These two are somewhat resistant towards the beta lactamase enzyme. So later on we all have to discuss also about what is beta lactamase enzyme. So under the carbapenems, the drugs are imipenems, meropenem, ertapenems, doripenems, and in the last one, monobactams, only one antibiotics was there, aztreonam. So these penicillins, cephalosporins, carbapenems, and monobactams are the groups that divided it from the beta lactams. So first we have to discuss about the penicillin. But before going through that, we have to discuss silent features of that one. So penicillins, when you go through the antibiotics, usually or in majority of cases, you will find the antibiotic they possess the suffix "-cillin". So "-cillin" is there like ampicillin, amoxicillin, cloxacillin, dicloxacillin. So in majority of penicillin, you will find the suffix "-cillin". The penicillin. Another interesting important point is beta lactamase. What is the beta lactamase? So beta lactamase is age. Age means the enzyme. So beta lactamase is an enzyme produced by resistant bacteria, and that enzyme is going to break down which thing? The name itself is telling you the lactam. So those enzymes produced by the resistant bacteria and that are acting on the beta lactam rings are called beta lactamase enzyme. So once the beta lactam ring of the beta lactams antibiotic get broken down, the antibacterial activity get lost. So this is the enzyme produced by the resistant bacteria. Later on, some of the antibiotic they have the itself have the beta lactam ring, and along with that compound, we are putting the penicillin, and that are called beta lactamase inhibitor. So what is beta lactamase inhibitor? Beta lactamase inhibitors are the compound which inhibit the activity of enzyme beta lactamase. Therefore, the drug other than these inhibitor is going to act. What it means? It means that the drugs like amoxicillin, ampicillin, then piperacillin, ticarcillin, these all are penicillin. They are going to combine with the beta lactamase inhibitors like clavulanate, sulbactam. So when we are putting the clavulanate with the amoxicillin in combination, the beta lactamase enzyme produced by bacteria is going to act on clavulanate or clavulanic acid, and the drug amoxicillin as such remain possess its antibacterial activity. So that is why this is important. Later on we have to discuss in broad way, so that there it will give you the clear concept. What are the other silent feature? Penicillins, or you may say the beta lactams, they are least toxic amongst the other antibiotics. So this is very, very important. This is least toxic, as well as the beta lactams are bactericidal. So this is very, very interesting that these two property is giving this beta lactams a very good safe drug to be used for the patient. Next important point with that, penicillins possess the functional group. We are calling it the 6-amino penicillinic acid. So this 6-amino penicillinic acid is the functional group to which we are putting the side chain, and by putting side chain with this 6-amino penicillinic acid functional group of the penicillin, as a resultant we receive the antibiotic. We are calling it the semi-synthetic penicillin. So 6-amino penicillinic acid is the functional group, and that is present in the beta lactams antibiotics. And in this functional group, when we are putting the side chain, as a resultant we are getting the semi-synthetic penicillins. So when you are putting this side chain, this will give or enhance antibacterial activity. It also enhances the stability against the stomach acid. It also enhances the susceptibility. It enhances, or you can say the decrease. It decrease the sensitivity to the beta lactamase enzyme. What it mean? It means कि these resistant bacteria, when producing the beta lactamase, they are somewhat not going to break down the beta lactam ring of beta lactams antibiotic. So side chain, the importance of side chain is that going to increase antibacterial activity, acid stability, and its breakdown by beta lactamase enzyme produced by resistant bacteria is also reduced. That means कि the semi-synthetic penicillin having the more efficacy than the natural penicillin. Now we have to go through the discovery as well as the chemistry of the penicillin. So this is the structure of the penicillin. So when you have to see the structure of penicillin, you will find one ring is this one. We are going to call it thiazolidine ring, thiazolidone ring. The another is B, and this B stands for beta lactam rings. Okay, and this is called side chain. So this as a whole, this is the chemical structure of penicillins. They possess this structure. What it means? Penicillin possesses the structure in which the ring are found. So what the name of these ring are? The ring are A stand for thiazolidine ring, thiazolidine ring. This another is B, is called beta lactam ring, and this structure from here to here is called side chain. So this beta lactam B is possessing the antibacterial activity. What it means, if this structure B is intact in the compound, the antibacterial activity of the penicillin get persist in the drug. So what it means, the beta lactamase enzyme, beta lactamase enzymes are several type, but two important beta lactamase enzyme is based upon its action on the penicillin and cephalosporin beta lactam. So if the beta lactamase enzyme such as penicillinase, when it is acting on the beta lactam ring of penicillin and going to break it down, this enzyme is called beta lactamase enzyme penicillinase. So penicillinase is the enzyme produced by the resistant bacteria, and this is going to act on the beta lactam ring of the penicillin, and that is going to break down. So after breaking this one, this penicilloic acid is formed. So when penicillinase enzyme is acting on the beta lactam ring, as a resultant, we receive the compound which is called penicilloic acid. And this penicilloic acid is going to combine with the protein of the patient, and form the hapten. Hapten, as you know, this is the immunogenic compound, and therefore this is going to responsible for hypersensitivity or hypersensitive reaction, particularly related to the IgE. So this penicilloic acid is going to produce the allergic reaction when combining with the protein of the patient, and therefore form the hapten, and therefore responsible for hypersensitivity or hypersensitive reaction. So this is the structure that I earlier mentioned. Here, when you are getting this compound as a natural, I mean there are two malts. One is Penicillium notatum, another is Penicillium cherisogenum. So Penicillium notatum as well as the Penicillium cherisogenum, both are responsible to produce penicillin G. So when you are going to put an enzyme amidase in the broth of the Penicillium cherisogenum, in that when you are putting this amidase enzyme, they are going to break down this side link, and therefore this is going to form this structure. So this structure is called side chain, and this as a whole is called 6-amino penicillinic acid. So what the mean the 6-amino penicillinic acid? 6-amino penicillinic acid have thiazolidine ring and beta lactam, and in which the side chain is not present. So when you are going to put the side chain with that broth in which amidase you are putting there, then as a resultant you will receive the semi-synthetic penicillins like ampicillin, amoxicillin, ticarcillin, piperacillin. That penicillin you are, these all are called semi-synthetic penicillin. So this is about the structure. So that I earlier mentioned. So now we have to go through the discovery. So see here with this acid, acid here there is a substitution of sodium and potassium occur, and therefore you will get the resultant compound sodium and potassium salt of the antibiotic. So this is very important one. So now we have to go through the discovery of the penicillin. So penicillin was that I already shown the scientist photograph. The scientist was Alexander Fleming, and this scientist is actually working on the different strain of Staph aureus, different variant or strain of Staph aureus. And he was working in the St. Mary Hospital at London. And by default, what he found that in the culture media, in the culture plate, area where some of the bacteria, Staph aureus colony get dead. So what he has found that at that area there was growth of the mold. So later on, when Alexander Fleming isolated this mold, he found the mold was Penicillium notatum, and that because there no Staph aureus growth was there, then he told this Penicillium notatum releases some compound which possesses the antibacterial activity. And thereafter, Alexander Fleming, he named the name of that compound the penicillin G. So Alexander Fleming, in the year 1928, he discovered the penicillin G, and as that from a fungus, the name of the mold was Penicillium notatum. That I had already mentioned about the structure of the penicillin. They possess thiazolidine ring, beta-lactam ring, and the side chain. So this is about the structure. Now we have to go through the Huh. I also discuss about the semi-synthetic penicillin. So how the semi-synthetic penicillin is formed? Penicillium chersonegenum is going to grow in the broth or in the media. In that media, we are putting the enzyme amidase, and that enzyme amidase is going to break down this structure and get separated the functional group 6 amino penicillinic acid. This is the 6 amino penicillinic acid, and also this is going to give the side chain. And when you are putting there the chemical or side chain, then as a resultant the side chain is going to added in the nucleus, that is the functional group of the penicillin 6 amino penicillinic acid. So therefore as a resultant we receive the compound called semi-synthetic penicillin. So this is about how we are synthesizing the semi-synthetic penicillin. Now we have to go through the unit of penicillin. So penicillin G still we are using, and that are not coming in milligram as a dose. That is coming, their dosage of penicillin G is unit per kg body weight of the animal or the patient. So therefore, we are going to discuss 1 unit of penicillin is equal to zero point 0.6 microgram of crystalline sodium, crystalline natural salt of penicillin G. So 1 unit is equal to zero point 0.6 microgram of penicillin G. So 1 milligram of penicillin G sodium is equal to 1667 unit. However, if the salt is potassium, then 1 milligram of pure penicillin G potassium salt is equal to unit is equal to 1595. That means कि 1 milligram of the sodium salt possessing more unit than the potassium salt. So this is all about the about the chemistry as well as the discovery of the penicillin. So now we have to go through the classification of penicillins. So penicillins, we are putting here the penicillins. So S stand for a group. So in this classification, here we are divided the penicillin into two broad group. One is called natural and another all is called semi-synthetic, because thereafter all these other than this natural are called semi-synthetic. And this semi-synthetic penicillin, on the basis of their spectrum of activity, whether this is broad spectrum activity against the different species of gram negative, they divided into different types. So now we are going to discuss the classification of penicillin. Here, before going to go through that, we are going to discuss the first that I have mentioned. The first one is the natural penicillin. That means these two are, I mean, penicillin G and penicillin V are natural penicillin. In these two, penicillin G and penicillin V, we are still using, today we are still using the penicillin G. So penicillin G and penicillin V are natural penicillin. Penicillin G is also called benzyl penicillin. And this one is isolated from the Penicillium cherrysogonum or Penicillium notatum, that is the historical one. That one was the discovered by the Alexander Fleming. So what the drawback with this penicillin is that penicillin G is acid labile. So when you are giving this penicillin G by oral route, the drug get destroyed. So therefore, the penicillin G is only available as a parenteral administration. Which one? Penicillin G. Another interesting point is that this one is not a broad spectrum. This is mainly acting against the gram-positive cocci. So you can say this is the narrow spectrum. And the third interesting point with the penicillin G is that the beta-lactam ring of penicillin G is destroyed by the enzyme penicillinase secreted by the resistant bacteria. That is the most of the strain of the Staph aureus. However, penicillin V is also natural one, but we are not using V. Why? Because their minimum inhibitory concentration amount is more. So there, that is why we are not using the penicillin G. Penicillin V, because you will need more amount of the penicillin V. Now we have to go through all that we are calling the semi-synthetic penicillin. So semi-synthetic penicillin are the penicillin in 6-amino penicillinic acid. We are added the side chain, and therefore as a resultant we receive the different compound of the penicillin. We are calling it the semi-synthetic penicillin, and they on the basis of their activity they have divided into different type. What these semi-synthetic penicillin are: penicillinase resistant penicillin, then extended spectrum penicillin, then again in the spectrum extended, that penicillin, extended penicillin that are acting against the pseudomonas, enterobacter and proteus. So they are called extended penicillin, spectrum penicillin with activity against the pseudomonas, enterobacter and proteus. And the last one is the again the extended penicillin, but this one is more better than the others that we have mentioned. But these all are semi-synthetic penicillin except the natural one. So next we have to discuss the under the semi-synthetic penicillin is the name is penicillinase resistant penicillin. So what is the meaning of this penicillinase resistant penicillin? That means कि resistant bacteria are producing the enzyme penicillinase to destroy the beta lactam. These drug beta have the beta lactams ring, and their beta lactams ring are not destroyed by the enzyme penicillinase. So in these all antimicrobial agent, that is the penicillin, their beta lactam ring are not destroyed by the enzyme penicillinase produced by the resistant bacteria, and that is why they are called penicillinase resistant penicillin. Penicillin which is resistant to the enzyme penicillinase is called penicillinase resistant penicillin. In this, you have to recall the name by CDMNO. These all are the first letter of all the antimicrobial agent that is coming under the penicillinase resistant penicillin. And the drugs are C4-cloxacillin, D4-dicloxacillin, M4-methicillin, N4-naphthalene, O4-oxacillin. So these all are penicillinase resistant penicillins. And in this CDO, that means cloxacillin, dicloxacillin, and oxacillin, these three are called isoxazoline penicillin. Why we are calling it the isoxazoline penicillin? Because they all possess the oxa. Oxa is here, oxa is here, oxa is here. So that is why then they are called isoxazoline penicillin, and the example are oxacillin, cloxacillin, dicloxacillin. So what the benefit of this one? These antibiotic penicillins, of course, they are narrow spectrum. The negative point with these all are that they are narrow spectrum, but they are penicillinase resistant. So if the bacteria are penicillinase producing bacteria like Staph aureus and Staph epidermis, then in place of penicillin G, you will use this oxacillin, cloxacillin, dicloxacillin, or the remaining one methicillin or naphthalene, because they are all are penicillinase resistant penicillin, but they are narrow spectrum. Even in earlier time, they are coming with along with the ampicillin plus cloxacillin. Ampicillin plus cloxacillin earlier came. Why the came in the combination? Because if the bacteria are penicillinase producing, there the cloxacillin is going to act. That is why they came with the combination like ampicillin plus cloxacillin. Now we have to go through the extended spectrum penicillin. So these all are the extended spectrum penicillin. So under the first extended spectrum penicillin, how it differ from the other extended, because this first one extended spectrum penicillin is somewhat acting against the soft gram-negative bacteria. So what it means soft gram-negative bacteria? They are acting against the E. coli, Escherichia coli. This is the gram-negative. Also the soft one is the Haemophilus influenza, Proteus mirabilis. So under this extended spectrum, the penicillin, the first one is they are acting against the soft gram-negative bacteria like E. coli, like Haemophilus influenza, like Proteus mirabilis, and the drug are called aminopenicillin. Here is another interesting. Why we are calling it the penicillin? Because they possess amino. That is why the name here is with the for the this amino is the AM. So AM is here. So ampicillin and amoxicillin, these two are the very interesting extended spectrum penicillin. They possess the activity against the Haemophilus influenzae, E. coli, Proteus mirabilis. But they are also susceptible to the enzyme beta lactamase, but not to the extent to the penicillin G. They are somewhat resistant, but of course their ring are also going to be break down by the beta lactamase enzyme, particularly produced by the gram negative bacteria. So to check this breakdown of the beta lactam of the ampicillin and amoxicillin beta lactam rings, we are putting the drug, we are calling it the beta lactamase inhibitor. So what is the meaning of this beta lactamase inhibitor? So beta lactamase inhibitors are the drug or the compound which inhibit the activity of the enzyme beta lactamase. So once the activity of the enzyme beta lactamase get inhibited, then beta lactam ring of ampicillin and amoxicillin is not get break down by the enzyme, and therefore their activity get intact. So thereafter the drug ampicillin, amoxicillin came with the combination with beta lactamase inhibitor. So there are several type of beta lactam inhibitor, and the beta lactamase inhibitors are clavulanate, that is also called clavulanic acid, sulbactam, tazobactam, and avibactam. So these all the four are beta lactamase enzyme inhibitor, and therefore we are going to combine with the penicillins, other penicillins or penicillins like amoxicillin and ticarcillin. Both are penicillins. Both are penicillin. So amoxicillin is the aminopenicillin. So amoxicillin is coming in combination with the beta lactamase inhibitor clavulanic acid. Ampicillin is also coming with the beta lactamase inhibitor sulbactam, whereas the piperacillin is also coming with the anti beta lactamase inhibitor tazobactam. So when you are using the main antimicrobial drug penicillins along with the beta lactamase inhibitor, so these inhibitor is going to inhibit the activity of enzyme beta lactamase, and therefore the beta lactam ring of the main drug like amoxicillin, ampicillin, ticarcillin is intact. So this is about the extended spectrum penicillin, and ampicillin is a very good choice of drug for treatment of gram-positive bacilli, Listeria monocytogenes. So this is very important. Next, we have to go through the other extended penicillin. So how this is better than the earlier extended penicillin? Because this extended penicillin is not only acting against the soft gram negative bacteria, but also active against the hard gram negative bacteria like pseudomonas, enterobacter, proteus, and under these the drugs penicillins are called carboxypenicillin. So carboxy is there, so that is why called carboxypenicillin. In that they are indicated by the car. So carbenicillin, carbenicillin indenyl, and ticarcillin. These all are called carboxypenicillin, and these all are possessing the antiviral activity, that is the antibacterial activity against the Pseudomonas, Enterobacter, and Proteus. So this is very, very important. This is about the extended. And the last one, extended spectrum penicillin, is that they also possess the gram negative hard one, I mean against the Pseudomonas, against the Enterobacter and Proteus. But other than that, the drug that comes under the other extended penicillins, they possess not only the E. coli, not only the Pseudomonas, they are also acting against the Klebsiella and more gram negative of number of bacteria. So that is why they are other extended penicillin, and their spelling, their chemical structure are different, and they are called uridopenicillin. So uridopenicillin are meglocillin, agelocillin, piperacillin. So piperacillin is coming with the tazobactam beta lactamase inhibitor. So tazobactam is the beta lactamase inhibitor, whereas piperacillin is a spectrum, extended spectrum penicillin with the broadest activity. So this is very, very important. Now we have to go through the pharmacodynamic or mechanism of action, and this is very, very important and interesting. So before going to discuss this one, this is very, very important, and try to listen it carefully, and then you will understand how this beta lactam drug is going to kill the bacteria. So this bacteria, beta lactam penicillin, as well as cephalosporin, is going to inhibit the cell wall synthesis of the bacteria, susceptible bacteria. So first one interesting point is that the penicillins and cephalosporins are going to inhibit the cell wall synthesis of the bacteria. So next point is that what is the raw material of the cell wall? So cell wall is made up of peptidoglycan. What is this peptidoglycan? Glycan plus pep peptide. So this cell wall is made up of peptidoglycan, and this peptidoglycan, in which the glycan is made up of two main components, we are calling it NAM and NAS. NAM means N-acetyl-muramic acid, and another is NAM and NAG, and NAM. NAG stand for N-acetyl-muramic acid. Here is the NAG, here is the NAM. NAG, NAM, NAG, NAM. So what these NAG and NAM? These NAG and NAM are glycoprotein. Okay, and this glycoprotein is the raw material of cell wall. So this NAM are going to form the lattice structure or peptidoglycan synthesis, or so this lattice structure or cross linking between the two N-acetyl-muramic acid is formed. Means कि this structure and this structure of the NAM is going to combine in such a way, form the lattice structure or lattice bonding or the cross bonding of peptidoglycan bond, and therefore it will make the cell wall harder, and therefore intracellular osmotic pressure is not sufficient to rupture the cell wall. So how this cell wall is synthesizing? Cell wall is synthesizing particularly the lattice structure, or particularly the cross linkage between the NAM is formed by the enzyme transpeptidase enzyme. Transpeptidase enzyme as well as the other enzyme on which beta lactams like penicillin and cephalosporin are acting are called penicillin binding proteins, PBP. So what is PBP? P for penicillin, B for binding, and P for penicillin. So these penicillin binding protein are enzyme on which the penicillin's antibiotic and cephalosporin antibiotic are going to inhibit. So therefore the lattice structure or cross linkage or peptide transpeptide reaction is going to be inhibited. So what is how this structure is formed, lattice structure is formed, or cross linking is formed. So this is the one norm, and this is the another norm. These two are possessing pentapeptide. So this is the amino acid, this is the 5 amino acid, and this is the 5 amino acid. So another norm is also possessing the same structure. So in the last two amino acid is called D-alanine. So this one is D-alanine and this D-alanine. So this lattice structure or cross linking is formed by the action of enzyme transpeptidase, and this transpeptidase is going to remove this one of the one of the amino acid D-alanine. So this one amino acid is going to be removed. So this one D-alanine is removed, and after removing, this is going to bind with this one in the presence of transpeptidase, and therefore this is going to give rise the lattice structure. So therefore lattice structure is going to make the rigidity of cell wall, and if the rigidity of cell wall is existing, therefore the cytoplasm pressure is not exerting the pressure over the cell wall get burst. So the penicillin and cephalosporin are the drug antibiotics. They are going to inhibit the activity of this enzyme penicillin binding protein, and once there is the inhibition of penicillin binding protein enzyme like transpeptidase, there is a inhibition of formation of cross linkage between the N-acetyl-muramic acid, therefore inhibition of rigidity of the cell wall, and therefore osmotic pressure of the cytoplasm is so high that are going to responsible for rupture of the cell of the bacteria, cell wall of the bacteria, and therefore bacteria die. Not only that, the bacteria is also producing the enzyme like autolysine. The name is autolysine. So this enzyme is going to act on the cell wall, and therefore helps to lyse the cell wall. So now we have to go through the this one. So as I earlier told, this is going to inhibit the cross linking. So this is going to inhibit the cross linking, and the osmotic pressure is so high, therefore that is going to rupture the cell wall, and bacteria is going to die, and therefore that are bactericidal. So penicillin are the bactericidal. Not only that, the bacteria is also producing the enzyme autolysine. So when there is no cross linking is there, and there is no lattice structure is formed, therefore the cell wall is weak, and this autolysine secreted by the bacteria is going to break down the cell wall, and thereafter the bacteria cell wall rupture, and bacteria is going to die, and therefore the drug is bactericidal in nature. So this is the in detail. This is in detail. So how you should know that bacteria is die? When you are going to see the component like park nucleotide is accumulated, then you will find the further process of cell wall synthesis get inhibited. So when the accumulation of the park nucleotide or park peptide is occurring in the cell wall, they are giving the indication cell wall lattice structure or cross linkage is not formed. So this is the marker. You can say the marker, like the marker. This is about the autolysin, how the autolysin is acting. Now we have to go through the another subheading, antibacterial activity or antibacterial spectrum of the drug. Regarding the antibacterial activity of the penicillin is concerned, the penicillins are not only acting against the gram-positive bacteria, they are also acting against the gram-negative bacteria. So they are the broad spectrum. Penicillins are broad spectrum in nature, except the natural one. Natural one like penicillin G is mainly acting on the gram-positive cocci, and later on when semi-synthetic penicillin was synthesized, they are get acting also against the gram-negative bacteria that I already mentioned in the classification. Here, one interesting thing is that the bacteria, why the Pseudomonas gram-negative bacteria require the extended penicillin? Because this Pseudomonas possessing the structure that is differ from the gram-positive cell wall structure. So because of the variation in the cell wall structure, the activity of the drug is inhibited. How? What it means? You have to see here the structure. See here the structure. This is the cell wall of the gram-positive bacteria, and this is the cell wall of the gram-negative bacteria. So in case of gram-positive bacteria, here you will find from here to here, this total, this much thick is peptidoglycan. So that means कि penicillin raw material, penicillin on which gram-positive bacteria on which the penicillin is acting, the peptidoglycan is so much thick. Therefore, they are more susceptible because the peptidoglycan is more thicker in gram positive, more amount of peptidoglycan. That is why they are more sensitive with the penicillin, because the penicillin is going to inhibit the peptidoglycan synthesis. However, in case of gram-negative bacteria, see here, here the phospholipid layer is there. Here is the phospholipid is there. So first drug has to penetrate this phospholipid layer, and then the drug has to reach to the target, that is the peptidoglycan. So in case of the gram-negative bacteria, the peptidoglycan is so thin. Not only so thin, their place is not superficially like gram-positive bacteria. They are occupied in the periplasmic space. So drug has to reach here. So gram-negative bacteria is going to inhibit the penetration of the penicillin G to come here. So therefore, the penicillin G is not coming here to act on this, therefore not acting. So even though the other drug that is called semi-synthetic penicillin, they other than aminopenicillin, that is aminopenicillin means ke ampicillin, amoxicillin, they have to they are not acting on the pseudomonas. They have to pass out through the porine protein. This so gram-negative bacteria have a protein. We are calling it the porine protein, through which the drug is passes up to the target area. So this is the target area. So now we are where we were. So because of this this structural variation in between the gram negative and the gram positive, they are going to develop the resistance. So now we have to discuss about the resistant, how the bacteria is going to save itself by producing the resistance against the drug penicillins. So how they are resistant? First is the natural. By natural means the bacteria are resistant to the drug like penicillin G. Why I am telling the penicillin G? Because the penicillin G is mainly or primarily acting against the gram positive cocci. So natural penicillin Particularly the gram-negative bacteria are natural resistant. Why? As I earlier mentioned, because their outer layer is not the peptidoglycan, the outer layer is phospholipid, and the second thing is that the peptidoglycan layer thickness is very thin. So that is why the gram-negative bacteria is less sensitive to the penicillin G, because the penetration is less through the phospholipid layer, the outer layer. So, and those those bacteria or mycobacteria, they don't have the peptidoglycan on which the drug is also not acting. Why? Because peptidoglycan is not there. So how the drug is going to inhibit the peptidoglycan synthesis? So the species like mycoplasma, they don't possess the peptidoglycan cell wall. Like mycobacterium, also they don't have the peptidoglycan structure. Then see here the natural resistant one species Pseudomonas aeruginosa. They are the resistant to the penicillin G. Why? Because Pseudomonas aeruginosa is gram negative, so the outer layer is phospholipid. Second thing is that the number of porine through which drug is entering is also less in Pseudomonas aeruginosa. So if the porine is not there or less porine is there, so how the drug will enter in the periplasmic space where the peptidoglycan is present? So that is no chances to act there. So Pseudomonas aeruginosa is naturally resistant to penicillin G because of the less number of porine and no entry of the drug. So the drug will not reach to the site, peptidoglycan site, that is in the periplasmic space. Next resistant property is change in the structure. Change in the structure of the target of the antibiotic. So what is the target of the antibiotic? The target of the penicillin is called penicillin binding protein. So what is this penicillin binding protein? They are the enzyme like transpeptidase and other enzyme also. So when the target like penicillin binding protein like peptidoglycan, the changes occur, if the changes is happen, then how the drug is going to act, how the penicillin is going to act? So a structural change in the penicillin binding protein by increasing the molecular weight of the penicillin binding protein, the drug the bacteria get resistant to the penicillin. The one of the most important example is the Staph aureus. Staph aureus develop resistance against the drug that is coming under the penicillinase resistant penicillin, methicillin. So Staph aureus, by altering the structure in the penicillin binding protein, become high molecular weight, and this Staph aureus become resistant to methicillin, and therefore the name of the resistant bacteria are resistant to the Staph aureus is called methicillin resistant Staph aureus. In these bacteria, I mean methicillin resistant Staph aureus, the drug like vancomycin, daptomycin is acting. So in that place we have to use these two drugs. So other means of the resistance. So earlier, as I have mentioned, the bacteria that are resistant to penicillin, they are also producing the enzyme. And the name of the enzyme is beta lactamase. Why the name is beta lactamase? Because this enzyme is acting on the beta lactam ring of the penicillin and the cephalosporin. And as per the action on the penicillin and cephalosporin, the name of the beta-lactam enzymes are penicillinase and cephalosporinase. That means these resistant bacteria against these penicillins and cephalosporins are going to produce the enzyme penicillinase and cephalosporinase, and they are acting on the beta-lactam ring respectively. And if do no beta-lactam ring, no antibacterial activity. So this is, and the last one, how the bacteria is going to produce the resistant against the penicillin, alter the permeability. So if the drug is not going to enter in at the site of action, how the drug is going to act? So how this is going to decrease the permeability? First, they are going to inhibit the influx of the drug. I means entry of the drug. So entry of the drug get inhibited by the gram-negative bacteria because in the difference in the structure, like Pseudomonas aeruginosa, E. coli, Neisseria gonorrhea, they are inhibiting the entry of the penicillin inside the cell wall. And as I mentioned, the in periplasmic space, the peptidoglycan is present there. Even though the drug gets reached there, the resistant bacteria has developed the property to remove it, and that is called efflux action. So the penicillins or the antibiotics should not be there in sufficient concentration to inhibit the cell wall synthesis. So this is all about the resistance one. Now we have to go through the pharmacokinetic property of the penicillin. So penicillin pharmacokinetic property is concerned. So most of the penicillins are oral administrable, except few one like the penicillin G. Penicillin G is not going to be administered through the oral route. Why? Because I earlier mentioned the penicillin G is destroyed by the stomach acid. So this is acid labile. Second important point is with that one, ki the drug is well absorbed and rich in not in every tissue as well as the most of the secretions like joint, pleural fluid, pericardial fluid, also in bile. So the drug have very good reachability, the reach most of the places. When you want, you have to see the concentration of the drug penicillin in cerebrospinal fluid, you will find very less, very meager. That is about the 1% of the plasma concentration present in the cerebrospinal fluid. But when there is infection of the brain occur, then the meninges get inflamed, the absorption of penicillin get increased. So in inflamed meninges or in case of disease condition of the meninges, their concentration of the penicillin is enough to produce the therapeutic concentration for the therapy of in brain infection. So under this the drug amoxicillin, their oral absorption is very well. Most of the amount of the amoxicillin by oral route get absorbed. Next important point is the excretion. Why the excretion of this one is important? Because majority of penicillin, except few like nepsilin, that is excreted through bile, majority of penicillin is excreted out through the urine. And in this one, tubular secretion is maximal, that is about 90%. So 90% of the drug is excreted out through the urine by tubular secretion. However, only 10% through the urine by glomerular filtration. So that property, tubular secretion, if any drug which inhibit the tubular secretion of the drug, that will prolong the action of the penicillin. So the drug like probenecid. So probenecid is a drug used in case of gout, which inhibit the tubular secretion. Tubular secretion is inhibited by probenecid. So when you are using penicillin in combination with the probenecid, so probenecid is going to inhibit the tubular secretion of penicillin. So if the secretion of penicillin is less, the drug should be persisted within the plasma or serum of the patient for longer interval, and therefore the half-life of the drug get increased. So in combination with the probenecid, penicillin activity or it prolong the action of the drug. So this is very, very important. The penicillin G is mainly used for parenteral administration. Parenteral administration. And when you are taking the penicillin G sodium salt, penicillin G potassium salt, the sodium and potassium salt of the penicillin G are not only used for the intramuscular but also used for the intravenous use. However, the repository preparation of these penicillin G are called penicillin G procaine, penicillin G benzathine. So penicillin G procaine and penicillin G benzathine are called repository preparation. Why we are calling it repository penicillin G? Because drug is slowly absorbed in or coming in the systemic absorption, and it will prolong the action of the drug, and that is why this is called repository penicillin G. So this isoxazolil penicillin that I earlier mentioned, oxa is there. So oxacillin, cloxacillin, dicloxacillin, they are acid resistant and therefore they are used orally. Amino penicillin that have the M, so the ampicillin, amoxicillin. So they, as I earlier mentioned, the amoxicillin is going to be used along with the beta lactamase inhibitor like clavulanate. So amoxicillin and clavulanate are coming in combination to use as a broad spectrum antibiotic because the clavulanic acid and the sulbactam are going to inhibit the activity of enzyme beta lactamase, and the drug amoxicillin and ampicillin beta lactam get intact to act against the susceptible bacteria. Next is the carboxypenicillin. Carboxypenicillin is also start with the car. So carbenicillin, this ticarcillin, this one is also ticarcillin. Uridopenicillin. Uridopenicillin is the last one is under coming under the classification the extended spectrum penicillin, and this is the broadest one. And the drug under this uridopenicillins are azulocillin, megilocillin, and piperacillin. So this is about the pharmacokinetic. Now we have to go through the untowards effect. So untowards effect is a concern. The untowards effect concern to the penicillin is less. And a important point, as I earlier mentioned, these beta lactamase like penicillinase in case of penicillin is acting on the beta lactam ring, and as a resultant the compound was penicilloic acid. So this penicilloic acid is going to combine with the protein of the patient, and this penicilloic acid and protein going to combine to form hapten. So hapten here, this you have to make it correct, this is hapten. So this hapten is going to produce the hypersensitivity or hypersensitive reaction. So this is only producing the allergic reaction. So before going to give this drug, you have to go through the penicillin test to see whether the patient is having or allergic to the this drug or not. So these allergic reactions are rash, fever, bronchospasm, serum sickness, Stevens-Johnson syndrome, anaphylaxis. So this is the main and important side effect or untoward effect with the penicillin. Now, why? This is the reason. Next is that GI disturbance is there. So GI disturbance, this is the common with the broad spectrum antibiotic. So when any broad spectrum antibiotic, when you are using not only the penicillin, if you are using any broad spectrum antibiotic, they are going to produce the supra infection that I earlier mentioned. And this supra infection like pseudomembranous colitis, and therefore GI disturbance is also formed by the broad spectrum penicillin like pseudomembranous colitis. Then organ toxicity. This is another important point with this one is the organ toxicity. So toxicity with the kidney and toxicity with the neuron. So what is this? It has been only seen with the kidney toxicity with the methicillin. So methicillin at high concentration get deposited in the interstitial part of the kidney, and therefore this is going to produce the acute interstitial nephritis. About the penicillin is concerned with the neuron, the penicillin are going to irritate the neurons. So penicillin are going to irritate the neuron, and therefore it produce the seizures, provoke the seizures. So these are the, and the next untoward effect is that when you are taking much amount of penicillin for longer time interval, particularly the sodium and potassium salt, they are going to produce the sodium and potassium, or you can say the cation toxicity in longer time therapy. So and now the last one is the under this is the drug-drug interaction. The name is clear-cut indication. This is the interaction between the two drug, that means penicillin and other than the penicillin. So other than penicillin, here is the one that you already gone through, one that probenecid. So probenecid and penicillin, when you are going to use together, this probenecid is going to inhibit the tubular secretion of penicillin G. So inhibition of tubular secretion of penicillins, indicating the drug is remain in the serum or plasma for longer time interval, and it will give rise its activity. Next, drug interaction with this group of the drug, salicylate, sulfonamide, and phenylbutadiene. These, along with the penicillin, displacing the penicillin with the plasma protein binding site, and therefore we are going to avoid to use with this one. But this is a rather safer one. The interesting point with this one is that combination is that penicillin, when you are using with the aminoglycoside, their combination is called synergistic combination that I earlier cited while going through the aminoglycoside. So aminoglycoside is also bactericidal, penicillin is also bactericidal, and both are in combination. They are going to give the synergistic combination, and the best example under this is the streptopenicillin. Strepto means streptomycin, and penicillin means penicillin G. Streptopenicillin is the important. Next important point is that usually penicillin and aminoglycoside is going to administered in patient separately. It is more better, particularly for carbenicillin and ticarcillin. When ticarcillin and carbenicillin both are used along with in combination of aminoglycoside, their activity of penicillin, carbenicillin, and ticarcillin get inhibited. So therefore, we are not going to use in such a way. So this is all about uh, beta lactams penicillin. In next class, we are going to discuss the cephalosporin.